Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Westcat Board of Directors meeting. Today is Thursday, March 12th. The time is 6:34 p.m., and we'll call this meeting to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Jerry Parsons.
Present.
Tom Hanson.
Here.
Tiffany Grimsley.
Present.
Dion Bailey.
Present.
Norma Martinez-Rubin.
Hello.
Cameron Cesar.
Here.
Thank you. And may we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving on for approval of the agenda.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so approved. Public communications, do we have any? None. Okay, no public communications. Moving on to the consent calendar. Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent calendar? Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as is.
Okay, all right, first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So approved. Okay, moving right along. We are now going to move into a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B, Public Employee Performance Evaluation. Okay, and we'll return shortly. Okay, we have returned from closed session, and we have one reportable item, and that is that we would like to, on the closed session item, which I will read again, which was pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Title General Manager, and the reportable item as that we would like to continue the employment of our current general manager, and we will, and that is it. That is our reportable item. Sorry. So we will reconvene to open session, and our next item is 3.0, items for board action and discussion. Item 3.1 is consideration and approval of update to Westcat procurement policy, general manager approval limit. And that's the general manager.
Okay, thank you. So there is a short staff report. This is just an issue that's come up. It doesn't come frequently, but it's come up a couple of times over the last year, that the current limit for my authority for improving contracts invoices is $40,000. That's an amount that was set back in 2018 by the board, and the previous. Before that, it had been set at $25,000. And one of the reasons I'm kind of trying to bring this to the board is that, you know, with fuel costs, we are getting close to that on a number of invoices. And when I've looked at some of the software agreements that we have that are sometimes done over 3 years, that potentially there's been times where we've been slightly above 40,000. So, you know, I think it's just in making a more formal process. We do have a number of software invoices, annual invoices, that potentially will be at that limit going forward. So my request is just to increase that limit. I did look at County Connection, Dry Delta and Labte, who all have a $100,000 limit. I completely understand if the board think that's a big jump, and so, you know, I'm just looking for some guidance on where the board would be comfortable on allowing me authority to approve invoices without bringing them directly to the board to gain approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions? Yes, Director Sasayan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the staff report on this and getting the approval limits from the neighboring agencies. Say for the past year, how many times has there been an instance where you've had to approve a purchase, but it was sort of a close call where you might have had to come back to the board for approval?
Well, I think we pay three fuel invoices every month, and right now they're not at that limit, but, you know, they're more like the closest to 35,000. So those are definitely getting close, and I think a number of our annual software agreements. You know, I have an agreement for potential use of cradle point devices basically cellular devices on our board or vehicles, and that would be a $50,000 invoice. So there's items like that come up. So I would say we're getting close on probably 10, 15 invoices a year, but I think that might be slightly exaggerated. But I think there was the example of last month where, you know, we had an immediate need to take care of an item, and then the one previous to that was when we had an issue with the bus wash, which was maybe 18 months ago at this point, where we needed to get it done kind of now, and so just having that ability to put that in place without going through, you know, waiting for another board meeting or potentially calling a special board meeting. So I think it's probably close to around 10 times a year, I would say.
Sure. And then, and thank you for acknowledging, I think, the jump from 40,000 to 100,000 is pretty big. Do you, 100,000 to me is sort of arbitrary in terms of, well, that's what neighboring agencies do. Is there a number that you have in mind from your experience approving purchases that you think would be most appropriate for this agency and sort of the businesses?
Well, I think just based on what I know where some of the, you know, the software agreements go, I think we've definitely got invoices over 50,000. We know potentially going forward be over 50,000, and, you know, it depends how they're broken up. So I think, you know, $60,000, $70,000 would probably be a realistic number that would be comfortable without needing to come back to the board, you know, more than maybe once or twice a year.
Right. I think at that time, to later on, I mean, this last time this was approved was in 2018. So I
Sure.
think at a certain point in time, this board, whoever might be on the board, would have to come back and say, okay, what's the power to dollar
Sure.
at a certain year? So that's my questions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So the action requested is approval or update to the procurement policy. Do you feel that you have sufficient guidance, or would you, so, do we need a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I second.
It has to be on the amount. You just can't say.
40,000.
You can't do 40.
40,000 is what's.
It's,
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Can I make a motion, Chair, to set the general manager's approval limit for purchasing to 70,000?
Okay, there's a motion for approval rate of 70,000. Is there a second?
Second. Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 3.2, authorize general manager to undertake a competitive procurement process for the award of a contract to repair and replace the administrative maintenance and operations facility roof. General manager.
So I was hoping to actually have a document before you, but I don't write many RFPs, so it's taken a little bit of time to put together. But we have determined that we do need to replace both areas of our facility roof. It's unfortunate that back in 2015, the administrative side was replaced. Unfortunately, when I found the documents that came with that purchase, there should have been annual maintenance done on that with a professional contractor that was not undertaken at the time. And so unfortunately, that roof has developed a number of leaks. So we did go out and get a couple of informal quotes just so we had an idea of what this potentially would cost. You know, it's obviously, it's a fairly large facility. If you've had a roof replaced anytime soon, it's not a cheap prospect. So there are a number of skylights that will need to be replaced as well. Some of the skylights are serviceable, manageable. Some of them will need to be replaced. All of the flashing, all of the downpipes, everything will need to be upgraded. So my request tonight is just the authority to go out and issue this RFP, which I think it will be an RFP. I think I've determined that that's the most appropriate avenue to get formal bids on the process. And then once we go through that process, we will bring that back to the board for actual approval of that agreement, because that will far exceed even my new authority. So my ask is just if we can authorization for me to release the documents when I finalise them, go through the formal RFP process, and then come back to the board for a contract approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Okay, yes?
Yeah, this is 3.2, right? Do we have any idea in the range? Because I know a guy.
Well, so I'll say that the initial quotes that we got did not include prevailing wage, which obviously needs to be part of this project, but they were in the $130,000, $140,000 range. So,
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any other questions or comments? Yes? No?
ready to make a motion?
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Okay, I move to approve to authorize the general manager to begin a competitive procurement process to repair and replace the facility roof.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so approved. Item 3.3, legislative and funding update.
so maybe just a real brief update on the funding. I think last month I mentioned that we'd spoken with MTC about the potential of a loan of RM3 funds to cover our feeder bus funds for next year. I got a little bit of clarity from MTC, which was good clarity in a number of senses, but so they still haven't figured out what the length of the loan would potentially be, but it could potentially be over 14 years, which would help us in terms of paying it back. It's contingent on the regional measure through SB 63 passing. So if that doesn't pass, they would not seek to be reimbursed on those funds. There'd be no interest rate applied, so it would be just a straight repayment process. And I think one of the really important ones was that the process normally for receiving Regional Measure 3 funds is a reimbursement process. So normally we would, at the end of a quarter, we would fill in the paperwork, put an invoice together, send it to MTC to wait for them to allocate the funds, to issue a check, or to send to the county to issue a check, and then wait for the county to actually issue that check and put it in the mail. So there's a process in reimbursement through these funds. So I think Rashidi Barnes from Tri-Delta had a real concern about the cash flow issues if that was going to be the process. So I did get a formal agreement from MTC yesterday that they would pay those funds upfront in a lump sum, which was really pleasing because that would be really helpful in terms of cash flow. So that's the main financial update. The only other part of that is we are meeting with County Connection and Tri-Delta to come to some kind of agreement on, if the regional measure passes in November, how those funds would be split between the three operators. I mean, the legislative itself is very generic in that, you know, Contra Costa, the three Contra Costa operators will split $15.75 million annually. So we're trying to come up with some kind of formula that makes sense. So in 10 years' time, someone will actually know why that decision was made. And I say that because there's a number of items where we're looking back at agreements that were made in, you know, the late 90s and the early 2000s, and they don't make any sense. So there must have been a reason at the time, but there's no documentation behind it. So I think myself, Bill Churchill, and Rashidi have committed to kind of like, let's come up with a rationale that we can document, that someone can look back in and say, okay, well, that's why they went through that process. So I think we'll work that out and go through that process. I think the main update is the legislative update, and I did share with you our lobbyists' report out on a couple of items, but I think there's only really one item that I want to discuss, and that's the Contra Costa Transit Authority's Bill SB 1408, which was released by Senator Arreguín in February. There's a number of concerning elements to the language in the bill, and the operators have met with Tim Hale, the executive director, with CCTA last Friday. We did give him a copy of a red line version of the bill that basically strikes out most of the areas of concern. Our lobbyist, our joint lobby, we have ourselves and Tri-Delta have the same lobbyist. County Connection have a different lobbyist. Have all looked at this language and have serious concerns about the authority that this would give CCTA over transit operations, transit agencies, coordination of services, the ability for CCTA to use measure funds for operating services, transit services. So Bill Churchill also asked his general counsel to look over the document, and although we don't share a general counsel, they do work for the same firm, so I'm fairly comfortable that our attorney would have a similar interpretation. They also have major concerns over this language. Our initial conversation with Tim Hale, you know, he's obviously drafted this with his attorneys, and you know, so he feels the language covers what CCTA needs. We just have a lot of concerns over the reach and the addition of authority. So we asked Tim Hale to respond to our red line document by next Monday, and I think that's when we would then potentially seek meetings with Senator Arreguín and some of our other legislators up in Sacramento, just to kind of really spell out our concerns. And I think I want to be really clear, you know, the intent, the major intent of this bill is to allow CCTA to go out for a renewal of Measure J. we're 100% in supportive of that. That's not the concern. And then all of that language we have no issues with. It's more just the initial language around the authority that CCTA have. And our belief, our attorney's belief, our lobbyist belief is CTA has all of these in current statute. They are all part of current language, the current PUC codes. This is just a new code with trying to overstate some of those kind of authorities that CCTA already have. So our belief is they don't need these language, and so that's why we've pretty much just at this point, we've just redlined them out and haven't come up with alternative language. So happy to answer any questions, but as I say, we'll hopefully have a better answer next Monday, and then we would then take any necessary next steps.
Any questions from the board members? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. So I didn't know, CCTA, are they considered a transit district?
No, this language would give them that, and that's more of a concern for AC Transit, because then there'd be two overlapping transit districts, which doesn't really make any sense. You know, it's hard to know how that even happens or exists. So no, they are not a transit district.
Okay, and then I know you've mentioned that we have questions in for the senator's office, but were we reached out to before he? Because we're in his district, so.
No. I will just say that, should I say yes? Okay. So I will say that Senator Aragon's staff believed that CCTA had written this in collaboration with the transit operators, which was not the case.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the answer.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Yes, Cameron.
Thank you, Chair. The staff report also mentions the errands bill on the transit stop registry, and also the budget trailer bill. Can you talk a little bit about the assembly bill first, and how that came about to be included in the package?
Oh, so I think what our lobbyist just gives all transit related updates. So I don't always include this full thing in this packet. This is more an internal update. I'm happy to always include it in the board packet, but it does just go through any relevant that our lobbyist sees relevant to local transit agencies. So I think this is just a bill that's been passing through for a little while. That again, there are some concerns on that particular bill, just because we don't manage or own any of the bus stops or the facilities. So putting a registry together is, we have a copy of where the stops are, but we don't really manage or maintain a lot of the stops because they're on city right-of-way and city property or county.
Okay, so is Westcat taking a position on AB 1599, or are we staying off that one?
We're staying off that one.
And then, so the only bill that we're taking a position on is Senate Bill 1408, and we're looking for amendments.
Yeah,
Or amended.
we're not taking a formal position tonight. Just to be, we're not at that position, because I think we're still working with CCA staff to see if we can mitigate some of the concerns before we do that. So I think that would be potentially at the next board meeting. Yes, but I think where we are is we are looking for amendments. Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So back to SB 1408, the authorization of CCTA to acquire and dispose of property, including through eminent domain. So can you tell us about that, and whether the operators, how the operators, what they're thinking about that? That to me seems like a takeover of what little is available.
We actually don't have any concerns with that, because that would, cities might have concerns with that, but I don't think we as operators don't have concerns, because we don't, none of us own our transit centres, we don't own stops, we don't own those kind of locations. So I think when we first saw the language, that was one of the questions, and that was something that our lobbyist kind of clarified, that is it's not something that we are concerned about.
Okay, so that surprises me, and it also educates me, because I thought the property on which Westcat offices belonged to Westcat.
Yes, that does, yes. But I guess we just don't see it. We don't see a concern with that language as it's written.
Okay, and so why not the concern then? Just so I can leave understanding better.
I mean, I guess we don't feel that that's what the intent that we're concerned about is the operations of services. I don't think the intent is that they're going to come in and want to rebuild or do anything or take over facilities. I think they're looking to, I mean, honestly, I think they're looking to operate automated technology vehicles. I mean, I think that's the intent of CCTA.
Okay. Yeah, what comes to my mind is the disposition of property to make up for funds that aren't available at the regional or state level. So that's why it crosses my mind. Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on this item? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I think this is just a matter of hearing it, hearing the report, receiving the report.
Yes, I don't need a motion on this. I think it's just, this is more just an information item at this point.
Thank you very much. Moving on then to committee reports, and item 4.1 is Journal Manager's Report.
So I just have two fairly short items. First one is, wanted to introduce the newest Westcat staff member who's in the audience, is Roseanne, who is our new finance manager. It's been a month, so settling in very well, very pleased. Picking up on a few, catching up on a few things. So we're just trying to making sure we're back on track. So just want to introduce her, and then the second item is just and I know Director Hanson's aware of this, that the Pinole Middle School were on Appian Way. Currently, they share a campus with the Mandarin School. I think going forward, there's going to be changes where the Mandarin School is moving back to El Cerrito, and another school from El Cerrito is going to be on campus. So I think there was a request at the Westcat meeting from the superintendent for help, for understand what the transportation needs might be. So I did reach out to her. I actually got an email just a little bit before this meeting from John Joy's staff to try and set up a meeting with us, AC Transit and the school districts, just to understand what potential transportation needs might be. When we had this conversation 3-4 years ago when the Mandarin School moved, you know, we're not in a position to offer direct service from El Cerrito to the school. I mean, we have workarounds, we have transfers, you know, so I think my position when we have the meeting will be happy to work on this, but, you know, we can't add new service. We don't have the funding to add brand new service to bring people from El Cerrito. So I think it's going to be a little bit about learning, understanding, working collaboratively with us, AC Transit, to, you know, to make sure we have connections in place so kids can make that. But, you know, we don't currently serve directly Pinole Middle School. We have stops on Canyon that are used by a number of children throughout Pinole to get to access that. But I think that's where we are. So just we're going to have that meeting in the next couple of weeks, and we'll go from there. That's all I have on my report.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item 4.2, WCTAC report.
Yes, we had a couple interesting things come up for the WCTAC meeting. One was how to deal with the alternates for CCTA, and it was decided to go with the primary and secondary, and we actually picked Rebecca Salzman for the primary and still working on who will be the secondary. Then the discussion about 2.0 Clipper, which is not rolling out as happily as they thought it would, so there's a lot of work yet to be done, and we had a long report on that and a lot of discussion about what actually is wrong with it. And then we also talked about the San Pablo Dam Road interchange. That's a huge project, was $135 million or so. So there's not the funding for it, but it's actually going to try to fix all the problems with that by putting in new off-ramps and stuff like that. So it's something in process, but not ready to go right now, and sometimes hopefully in the future. And that was kind of the meat of the meeting at WCTAC.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 5, correspondence. No correspondence. Surprising. Item 6, board communication, items for future board meetings. Anyone? Okay. That leaves item 7, adjournment. All right, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.